Mm. Yummy.
Canon Films, the home of high-powered, high-voltage motion picture entertainment. With the screen's biggest spectacles, brightest stars, and boldest lineup of explosive entertainment. We're taking motion picture excitement over the edge and your box office over the top. We're Canon Films, and we're dynamite.
I will have to admit, as a kid, this is a movie that I never got around to viewing. I distinctly remember part 2 deviating from the original and took it in a different direction. Then again, when you were talking about taking something outrageous and putting it out on the beaten path, you're talking about Canon Films. For a groundbreaking film that had about as much success as John Carpenter's Halloween, that it would be 10 years later before a sequel was made in 1986. Here, Tobe Hooper was given an opportunity to write a sequel. He had spent a few years bouncing ideas to and from his co-writer Kit Carson, who also wrote the screenplay. I think what happened here, folks, is that they felt pretty much like Steven Spielberg felt after he had finished making Jaws, that Tobe Hooper had written a definitive thriller classic like no other. So this time, the co-writing team of Hooper and Carson would take the franchise in a completely different direction. They figured, why try to top something that was in the hearts and minds of horror fans, that was iconic, terrifying, and unique. So what we got was basically a dark horror comedy.
If we were going to do the second one, it had to be different from the first one, and Toby and I both agreed on that. The victims were hippies. So we have to figure out who would be the next person that these guys would want to kill. And I went to the mall in Dallas and looked around, and there were all these people running around in pastel sweatsuits, buying all kinds of stuff. And they were yuppies. It was like, oh yeah, that's who they want to kill. Then they were to be in a chili contest that a yuppie organization had sponsored. I mean, it was like the pieces of the elements of the story were there. And that's when we tried, okay, so it was about the Sawyer family. We gave them a name. Lefty Enright, the Dennis Hopper character, a family. He was the uncle of the kid in the wheelchair who was killed in the first one. And then as he got into this, he discovered that Stretch, the lady DJ, is his illegitimate daughter. What's interesting is that this family is very vulnerable. That's why they sort of fall apart. I mean, what we did was give Leatherface an inner life, which he didn't have in any of the other movies, really, that he falls in love with this girl. What we were also doing at the time was satires of all these teenage movies that John Hughes was making, this whole chain of teenage movies, which we were going we got to also mess with that, too. One of the film was to make it a comedy.
I'm the Lord of the Harvest.
Who's that? Some new health food bunch?
Because you didn't want to make a serious film out of this. If you're going to do it again, you have to blow people's minds in another way.
Whereas the original was pretty shocking and pretty brutal as to the level of violence that the victims were subjected to. It only adds to the brutality and gore that we didn't see off screen. Whereas in part 2, it's balls out gore. When you bring on special effects horror guru Tony Savini, expect for some amazingly insane gore effects going on. Tobe Hooper's original concept for this movie was to center it around an entire town of Sawyers. Sorry, but ribs don't fix everything. And I think I briefly have lost my appetite for them.
Tampering. Sheriff's deputies have found a reported dozen coffins robbed of all or part of their contents. According to Sheriff Jesus Maldonado, there were instances in which only the heads and extremities were removed, and others in which only a hand.
I know barbecue is the reason God made pigs and man discovered fire, but just hearing that, I just feel a little burnt out.
Get on down there and get yourself some.
Now that he has made his bed with Canon Films, he is operating on a much bigger budget with $4.7 million. That's quite the big league bucks for a horror film. It's even more insane that you get Dennis Hooper in it. Wow, does he steal the show, chewing up and spitting out poetic justice that I'm surprised he is not nicknamed Lieutenant Commander Killdozer. But as much fun they had, trouble was arising this troubled production. According to the making of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which is available for viewing on YouTube, the cast and crew all had a great time. What they found stressful was working on such a tight budget because it kept being taken away from them by our favorite distributor, Canon.
March, by the end of March, we were headed to Texas to secure locations. Then we started pre-production in April, and the weekend before we were to start shooting, Canon sent down a studio exec who announced to us in a production meeting on Sunday night, we are taking $1 million out of your budget.
What the shit?
Not to mention shooting non-stop for 36 hours inside a giant warehouse that conducted a lot of heat where many of the cast members complained of being deprived of any sunlight.
I remember we only had about a month to put the whole thing together, and we didn't even have a location when we started working on it, and no idea how we were going to put together a crew that was large enough to build or to supply all of the materials and props and set dressing and sets that were necessary.
They delayed starting pre-production because they had a script that they had run an initial budget on, and the budget was too high, and so they were forcing Kit and Toby to go back and cut some out of the film and cut the budget down. So there was some wasted time there, but I think we probably had, it's hard to remember, maybe 5 or 6 weeks. Such a difficult place to work in. When we first went to pre-light the space, we sent the riggers up to rig the cable, the power cable, and hang lights. And these guys would go up, and it was hot, so they were just wearing shorts and t-shirts and stuff, and they would go up onto the beams and the rafters. Well, remember, this place had been a newspaper printing plant for 40 years or so. They would come down from the rafters, and they were literally black.
Still, they took pride in fighting against the odds for what little they had to spend and work with. Everyone, including screenwriters Kit Carson and director and co-writer Toby Hooper, were pleased with their final cut and were ready to submit to Canon for review.
We had a screening, cast and crew screening, and the audience laughed throughout the film. And the screening was in the screening room at Canon. And at the end of the screening, Toby comes to me and says, uh-oh. And we go into a meeting with Canon, and they say, we want to see the monsters. We want to see the monsters. That's what the audience wants. We want to see the monsters. So take out all this stuff, and they were like stunned that the film was funny, which if you'd read the script, you would know that it was funny intentionally. I don't know why they didn't get that, but that was the moment at which things changed, and they did whatever they wanted to do. We preserved as much of the film as we could, but basically this whole subplot of Dennis discovering the stretch is his illegitimate daughter.
Lefty.
Sister.
Lefty.
Which has a heart to it, you know, and gives both of them some emotional juice in going through this story. That went away.
The script was a work in progress. I mean, Kit Carson, the writer, was working on that the whole time we were shooting. As a matter of fact, the prop man, Mike Sullivan, looked over his shoulder at one point and said, Kit, you can quit writing that scene, we just shot it. So
shooting began, I think, in May, and then we shot, and I have a script that it says June 28th, final, and we finished shooting on the 4th, so that script is pretty much, I mean, I was rewriting the whole time. I mean, you know, when you rewrite during production, the pages have a different color with each rewrite. This script was like a rainbow. Never seen that many colors in a script. Then we just had to develop a strategy of how do you do this.
That's the price you pay for working with Cannon, though. You have to accept the fact that you can have ideas of grandeur to make the best film possible, but you will always be led by the idiot team of the two stooges, Golan and Globus, who will do everything in their part to break up your masterpiece.
And Cannon didn't realize it was a comedy.
Small businessman that always gets it in the ass.
Menachem and Yoram are not very flexible, and if you sell them a horror picture, they want horror.
It was a shocker for them to not know what the film was. We took the Chainsaw Family and copied the same poster from The Breakfast Club, and it went up on Sunset Boulevard. And Cannon didn't know it was a comedy?
The audience wasn't prepared for the craziness or looniness that Chainsaw 2 was.
They just wanted to scream. And Toby didn't want to make another screaming movie. The end of Chainsaw was almost really the public beginning of the end for Cannon.
We begin the film and are introduced to yet another voiceover along with a similar text scroll that just recaps the first movie.
The afternoon of August 18th, 1973. 5 young people in a Volkswagen van ran out of gas on a farm road in South Texas. 4 of them were never seen again.
Yeah, it's not easy being original, Cannon.
The next morning, the one survivor, Sally Hardesty Enright, was picked up on a roadside, blood-caked and screaming murder. Sally said she had broken out of a window in hell.
But it's funny just watching you try.
The girl babbled a mad tale. A cannibal family in an isolated farmhouse, chainsawed fingers and bones. Her brother, her friends, hacked up for barbecue.
The movie opens to Texas lawmen who have been engrossed on a month-long manhunt in search of the macabre farmhouse. They locate it to find no killers, clues, or facts, thus making the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre erased from existence. This is by far the most fucked up premise ever. That's enough to make anyone feel fucked up about fucking up a masterpiece. This is not how you get shit done, Cannon. However, to cast your fears aside, it seems 13 years later they have noticed more grisly chainsaw-like murders that have occurred all abroad the state of Texas. Is this a continuation of the first? Or how the Sawyers grew a chain of Texas Roadhouse franchises? After all, we are operating in all smoker zone. Then we open up to a couple of pistol-popping college preppies on the way to a big party.
Yeah! Hook 'em hard!
No, they are about to get themselves done.
Hey, baby, we are on our way to the biggest party of the world. Yeah!
Well done.
Yeah!
Apparently, they are on to the big college football rivalry game between Texas and Oklahoma. Ha! When you need 6 points in Texas, you'll only find it in the beer. Seems like our little pea shooter is shooting every mailbox, sign, and whatever violent form of creative mad expression that comes to mind. I still prefer mailbox baseball better.
Charlie and Billy were playing mailbox baseball with Ace and Eyeball.
At one time they attempt to play chicken and run a truck off the road.
Come on, man!
Like they say, live today like you're going to get fried tomorrow. Terrific. Love the foreshadowing already.
That was great! That was great!
Love how this is going. Now we're trucking. So, the two put in a call to a radio station and speak with Stretch. Yeah, I'm sure with a name like that, these two will expect her to bend over her ass backwards for her sunny side up.
Real funny guys. Okay, you want to hang up now? Tying up the line.
Sorry, but we're not going to applaud you guys for your erection. Stretch is actually her call sign DJ name as she hosts a nightly show called the Call-In Request Line Show. What a bland name for a request line show. I swear this radio show is lacking some mad flavor in their programming.
Hey, come on.
Give me the number to your supervisor called Spice. This harassment goes on, and I tell you, as it is, just another simple college hijinks of erections.
Kale, Red River Rock and Roll request.
It is Stretch. It's the buzz again.
Oh, not again. Hang it up, lame-o. Go call your mother.
Okay, enough. Put some protection on that erection.
He wants to hear bright lights, big titties. Wrong. I don't want to hear it. I want to see it.
Later on, they find themselves driving across a bridge as headlights are approaching from the opposite direction. You can't change fate, but don't feel so bad. Keep in mind, folks, this is the truck, the same trucking that they ran off the road earlier today.
Fuck.
This time going in reverse. Wow, I never would have dreamed that someday there would be a truck driver in there thinking he would never be a grumpy old truck driver. But here you are, contemplating, complaining, and about to kill it. Because after all, he's paid to share with the hostile glare out of his window all day long. Oh, wait, a Cracker Jack corpse comes as a prize for every homicide.
What the hell is that? Look at some kind of geek. The geek's got a... Come on, what is that?
What luck for these two schlubs. Looks like the Sawyers have found their groove.
Come on, get out of here! Where'd he come from?
This must be the sequel as to how the Sawyers got their groove back.
Keep driving! Come on! Hey, let's go!
The corpse is actually the hitchhiker from the first film. It's well preserved.
Come on, man! What you doing? God damn it!
Should we call that Disco Dead?
You got there!
Looks like Leatherface is holding it up like he's the puppeteer in front of them.
Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!
Yeah, who needs marionette strings anymore? Everything is done with Bluetooth.
Come on, get out of here!
Leatherface then begins sawing up the car as they are racing across the bridge. That must be his doomstick. He ends up decapitating the tops of their heads as the car crashes. Sure, that left us all feeling quite disconnected. That was pure heavy metal whacked out. It's gotten even more wacky to baggy as Dennis Hopper shows up.
This is just an accident. Just a couple of wild punks out raising hell.
Yep. One of those boys so wild sawed his own head off going 90 miles per hour. Hell. Hell's exactly what they raised.
For some reason, he has stated on interviews that this is the worst movie he has been in. No, you're confusing that with Super Mario Brothers.
And now, I'm gonna make a monkey out of you, plumber.
Talk about a movie that really laid a big King Koopa on a grand video game franchise that spawned the growth of Nintendo.
Monkey!
He must be crazy in real life because he can really dial up the lunacy when called upon. Then again, that is why we admire him for his crazy, funny, weird stuff.
If you go around promoting this chainsaw...
Trying to speak plain. Saves time.
Oh. Wow, does he really slather that Texas accent on extra thick, as we presume? He is the local sheriff investigating the car crash. Nah, he is just a guy who admires those who like to live fast and leave a pretty corpse behind.
I have authority from the DA's office to put you right back on the next plane to Amarillo.
Will you just do that, son? I'd like to see that authority.
It also goes deeper as he has a personal vendetta against these chainsaw killers that took something close to him in the past.
Yes, there's something about chainsaw killers, your brother's kids killed.
For him, karma takes too long, and he would rather kill the shit out of them right now.
I'd like to see that authority.
The Lieutenant Enright mentions to someone, remember the Alamo Cowboy? That's true, remember that and a call to someone's mama because someone's about to get whooped tonight. He then makes a mention in the papers asking for assistance as to anyone who can help him with this investigation.
And maybe some witnesses.
Yes, sir. I know some old boys at the paper.
Stretch meets him at the hotel and says she has a tape she had in possession for a while.
I believe you. I might be the only believer you got, because it's right here.
What is?
Right on here, those kids getting killed.
So, there she is with the most damning concrete evidence that would connect him with the killers. But he refuses her and helps kick her out.
For you to go home.
No, wait a minute. Look. I came here because I thought I could help you. I DJ this dumb show on KO Club in Burke Burnett, but people listen to me all across North Texas. Now I can put you on the radio, get people to believe you, get you some help.
You're gonna get in my way.
Did you suddenly delete a cop on a crusade that you were just a few minutes ago?
Don't you get in my way.
No, I'm already right in the middle of this.
You literally put an ad in a newspaper asking for assistance to provide any clues or leads in this case, and you turn her away?
Well, I don't need anybody to stand with me, all right?
You can't do it alone.
I just hope your brain qualifies for unemployment benefits.
I got a perfect willingness to die.
But also, in that very same hotel, a chili cook-off is commencing. Hey, some like it hot.
Okay, everybody, hush up. Listen up, y'all. The Texas OU Chili Cook-Off champion is from...
The winner of the cook-off is none other than Drayton Sawyer, the only guy that reprises his role from the first movie.
Drayton, you've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret, it's the meat.
Everyone is so anxious to hear what the secret of his fantabulous tasty chili is.
Don't skimp on the meat.
Let me guess, boneless pork rectums.
I got a real good eye for prime meat.
At least this killer is cutting down on his cholesterol and trans fats.
Runs in the family.
A woman attempts to eat the chili and ends up pulling something out of her mouth.
Whoop. It's one of those hard shell peppercorns.
Nah, she probably passed a kidney stone. That extra fat and gristle flavoring surrounding its hardened shell was probably from someone's spleen.
I gotta say, I love this town. This town loves prime meat.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Einright walks into a decapitation, do-it-best hardware store, today's special, today's chainsaws.
What can I do you for?
He has down $1,000 and starts trying out the chainsaws. Chainsaws sure make him happy. Police work, that's too much.
Well, don't you want to test them? There's gas in them.
Then he either picks one up and does samurai sword fighting with one, or picking up two smaller ones and using them like boxing gloves. I guess policemen use that when the hands-off approach isn't working. Store owner doesn't want him to leave without trying it out. So he takes out this really long axe, almost as if it's his long broadsword, and starts hacking it at the log. buzzing into it but hacking it like it's an axe.
Oh, my kid banana.
It's supposed to be a tough guy display of power, but it looks very awkward and terrible. Hey, the store owner is in pure delight watching him do this. Well, I'm sure he was pleased, for that was a random act of kindness. Not only is the store out in the middle of nowhere, but it goes into a horrible jump cut of marching band that goes by. Maybe we will have a water break once the trumpets stop talking. They are on the dirt road behind them. What are they doing? Who's parading this time of day in the scorching hot desert? It's kind of an odd disconnect. Another thing that is odd is Dennis Hopper's slight change of heart to change his mind and go back to Stretch, and wants to listen to the tape of the college boy's murder.
Come all the way up here to Burt Burnett? No shit!
Welcome to law enforcement, the only job where you're hated for both doing and not doing your job.
Oh, you want to hear it now?
I want to hear it on the radio, on your show.
Later we see the cook Drayton driving his food truck.
Drayton did it again, number one.
I'm guessing cooking with cannibalism is living off one another must pay real dividends, because he's driving quite the awesome barbecue truck.
Number one, the Sawyers are number.
He receives a phone call from his car phone, but you can't hear the person on the other end, but only can hear Drayton responding.
Last roundup rolling grill, we're still number one.
But then again, he's a riot.
I told you boys, and I told you, don't call on this phone now, damn it.
100% hilarious. He's like a maniacal Lucky Charms killer, and every bit of psychobabble that spews out of his mouth is pure comedy gold.
Get off. What's on the radio?
I think we can contribute that to how well he ad-libs and nail the parts of every silly profanity-laced anecdote on cue.
Now don't bullshit me. I can't. I won't. All right, what station?
Leatherface, on the other hand, will be reprised by a brand new actor, Bill Johnson. Originally, it was supposed to go to Kane Hodder, whom is more well known for his work in portraying killer Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th films. Now the filmmakers offered Hodder the role, but were only willing to pay him scale, and unfortunately, he turned it down. Also, another new actor playing the role of the hitchhiker from the first film was Bill Moseley. In this film, he is the twin brother of the hitchhiker, and surprisingly looks similar to the hitchhiking actor in the first one. Back at the radio station, they play the tape, but yet you hear the Star Spangled Banner and playing on air, indicating the radio station was signing off for the day.
There it is. You've done it again. You cool shit. You mudcrackers, you'll be the death of me yet.
This concludes the broadcast day for K-Okla in Burt Burnett, Texas. Red River rock and roll. In New York, it's 1 a.m. Still fun city. In L.A., 10 at night party time. But deep in the heart of Texas, it's 12 midnight. Ain't nothing going on.
It's another cussing caller.
I'm surprised it's not keyed to the tune of Roseanne Barr's 1990 rendition of the national anthem. It's so good, you just have to cover your ears at the beginning. I swear that's enough to glitch out your radio speaker. She leaves the room to locate super weird guy by the lobby, who is Chop Top Sawyer with the super gross prosthetic teeth.
Whoa! So this is Radioland, huh? The infinite turtle, the waves through the ether fuzz roll on forever. Roar!
He should stop blubbering and brace himself if he is not scratching his head.
But now that we're here in flesh and blood, I could maybe make a request and it'd still count, huh?
Sure. Hmm?
He certainly is plucking it off the scalp of his head and eating scabs like it's a dried old prune.
Tour? Sure. Sure. But seriously quick. And it ends at the exit sign.
Gossiping and picking scabs, huh? It's like Lay's potato chips. You know, no matter how much he tries to stop, he just can't. Sir, you can't stop now. I prefer movies to be in a scab-free zone.
The Rambo 3 soundtrack?
That's right, violators will be permanently replaced, disinfected, and sanitized.
Gonna play it again?
Chop Top confesses he is an admirer of Stretch and wishes for her to play the murder tape along with a copy of it with her signature.
She would like it.
Oh, she would be so happy to oblige, but she's allergic to nuts.
Hey, maybe I could get a copy. And you could autograph it to a far out fan. What's in here?
Record vault.
Yet when he asks for a tour of the radio station, she so happy obliges. She welcomes him in open arms and gives him a tour of a desk, pen, stapler, and the studio exit. All this time, she is just remaining stationary. She shows no desire to leave, yet allowing him to continue to make predatory advances to her. Next time, learn to assert a little more amount of unavailability. She is trying to get rid of him, and when she tries to show him the door, they have this tense exchange of the battle of the goodbyes.
And there's the exit sign. Tour's over.
E-X-I-T.
Good night.
Oh, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Why does it take forever to say goodbye to certain people when it should clearly only take 0.978 seconds to say farewell to a psycho? Chop Top leaves, but yet she is standing in front of a doorway. But you don't see a doorway, but just adding another new dimension of time and space for horror as Leatherface leaps out of the darkness for a serious scream that was quite effective. That was some serious Jack-in-the-Box scare action. You don't see it coming at first. He lurks in the shadows and then he leaps in for a charge and ends up chasing Stretch throughout the radio station. She runs as if she is running in the Jurassic Park marathon. Leatherface ends up chasing Stretch into this one giant meat locker rooms like Sawyer had in their old house that has a big metal door that slides shut. Stretch immediately finds herself trapped in there. To them, you look like a fine piece of stand-up comedy, but unfortunately for you, you may not make the cut. He is literally hacking away at the door for some time now. As one door closes, another one opens, and there lies Leatherface. Lovely man, but terrible cabinet maker. That's funny. Radio stations in the movies are always supposed to be these nicely decorated places where everything is all nice and tidy, like in the TV show WKRP in Cincinnati. Here, this one dump with shit everything and stashed about. Not to mention yesterday's news just hanging on the wall that's been there since God knows when. Oh well, at least Leatherface adds some color to the interior decor, bursting through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah. Leatherface takes a swing, misses the girl, but hits Chop Top on the head. But we find out Chop Top has a big metal plate on his head underneath the wig. That's one guy with a metal plate in his head, tin ear, and a set of brass balls.
Oh, he's gonna send me back to the VA hospital with a dent in my plate.
The backstory was he served in Vietnam, got shot by the Viet Cong, and had an honorable discharge. After that, he received some money out of the settlement. Yeah, not on a long-term medical insurance like most U.S. veterans, but a long-term settlement which in turn funds the Sawyer's whole barbecue operation. All paid by your glorious tax dollars at work, sponsored by the IRS. After all, they have what it takes to take what you have and make it theirs. That's the IRS, insensitive, ruthless shysters. Yet helpless LG, the radio technician, pops out and is hit in the head Halloween 2 style by Chop Top. Well, 50 or 60 times per se.
Time for incoming mail! Oh, team in!
Yet LG continues to flop around like a dead fish to the point where you wouldn't want to have a pulse anymore with that amount of direct blunt force cranial trauma. Third hit at best would have done him in. Yet LG lives. What? No matter what stainless steel tool you use, no matter how much force you put into it, the other person is not going to make it. If you don't believe me, pick a fight with a Hell's Angel. I hear that ball pen hammer is their blunt force weapon of choice. Why? It's 100% legal. True, Leatherface in part 1 was a juggernaut killing machine, but here his main joy is laying down the heavy metal. What's not to like? Leatherface is cool. He's hip. Hey, every time he holds up that chainsaw above his head, he's getting down with his chainsaw shimmy dance. Notice those perfect pelvic thrusts like Ace Ventura as he is shimmying as he continues to cut down the place. It's ridiculously a riot. We can safely assume that the chainsaw represents a phallic symbol for Leatherface. After all, he has got to make up for that one ravishing rooster who ran away with his heart in the first one. Aw, why is there a cooler? Probably to tame and cool down Miss Kitty. Even the soda pop cans can't control themselves and end up spewing all over her face. Oh, I didn't know this was going to turn into an artificially flavored jizz fest. Then Leatherface takes the chainsaw and rubs it up her legs in a very long, slow, seductive sequence that pretty much runs all the way up her leg, up her thigh, where it pretty much is nuzzling at the front entrance of her. Meat curtains.
Oh. Good.
So she takes a page out of Alice's psychologist playbook from Friday the 13th Part 2, because I'm guessing all damsels in distress have a knack for reverse psychology and tease Leatherface into thinking she's his girlfriend.
Real good. You're really good.
That's enough for him to spare her life, but it puts on a happy face on him even if it's not his own. Chop Top wants to know if he took care of the girl, and he nods that he did and communicates in non-verbal gestures and his adorable shimmies. So they leave and everything pretty much to now has been insanity and gore on steroids. It certainly has a radical different feel from the first movie. Then the film also deviates from having a logical progression. because for some reason she wants to get even by following them.
Damn it.
I'm sure Tobe Hooper wanted to make his lead character idiot-proof, but then Candid Films comes along and made it a better idiot. So, she follows them into an abandoned amusement park called Texas Battleland. Again, probably within an earshot of the police. If you searched high and low, they would find this next to an old junkyard as opposed to finding some desolate cabin in the woods. Sorry, Sawyers, you're not fooling anyone this time. So she stops her truck and gets out and looks left and right and sets aside this special time to humiliate herself in public by running in from behind a tree and walks in after them. Every single day, the stupid gets stupider. Then another car shows up and she starts running in the direction of it, and it turns out to be Lieutenant Enright.
Stretch!
He admits he was tailing her all this time, and then they don't have much of a formal exchange after that.
Stretch!
Lefty!
As the earth opens up beneath her. Then she falls into a pit of hell. One's own personal hell, as it is all illuminated from underneath.
Hold on! Grab onto something, hold on to it!
I'm sorry, but a fall like that is equivalent to a death trap by falling 50 feet into a mine shaft. But here, she just falls all snug and safe into a pit.
Lefty, they came! Where were you? I had to do it. Damn, I used you, girl. I'm here now. Grab hold of this. Grab hold of this now, don't you?
Come on, riders. Quit pulling our leg here. His rescue attempts fail as she slides down more piles of human bones through another floor, down 3 more stories into this huge subterranean amusement park. Apparently, this is where the Sawyers have called their home. It's all decorated and lit up with many corpses lying around. Well, what she may find offensive, the Sawyers find it funny, which probably explains why they are all a hell of a lot happier down here. I guess what we choose to call hell, they call home. Sincerely, a lot of the credit in this film has to go to the production designers for the short time constraints they had to work with in being able to throw together this massive set that composed mostly of junk. They were able to construct giant tubes together, assemble truckloads of bones, and truckloads of lights and lamp that they rewired and lit all around to create this massive living place. In a way, it made the Sawyers living like they were a bunch of earthworms. Yet the Sawyers have all this money, but yet they are running away from the law and living in seclusion. Even their need for privacy is out of control here. Is this movie supposed to be funny? Is Tobe Hooper hinting at some social commentary? Hooper did admit in interviews that it was meant to be a satire, but I was kind of confused as to what it was a satire of.
Maybe just one quick. Oh yeah? Kiss my plate, Mr. Big Shot. Maybe you forgot. This chrome don't bankroll this business. No lucky goose with a machete, no head wound. No head wound, no fancy rolling grill and go-go.
It's just an overload mishmash of so many things going on at once. Plus, in the beginning, Dennis Hopper makes such a grand entrance as the king crusader of crime, but in the last half of the movie, he is mostly milling about with just him and the chainsaw trying to tear down the walls of the earth to find Stretch.
Beat the stranger that walks beside me. It takes away my strength. Lord, you show me the end. Show me what I fear, so I don't fear it no more. Ah! 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 Ah!
Well, if I knew anything about building foundations, he's doing quite a lot in cutting down the support.
I'm bringing it down! Bring it all down!
Then again, these supports can't be holding up much after what this lemming with a chainsaw has been doing to the foundation.
Bring it all down!
Stretch awakens and finds herself in the Sawyer's meat locker. Sorry, smokehouse locker where she has been hiding. More like stewing in her own juices. Meanwhile, Leatherface has been filleting her friend LG, the radio technician. Probably preparing his next dish called the fillet of sole. Then as Stretch watches, she happens to kick over some hooks, sitting right next to her, which signals Leatherface to come over, and they have yet another romantic moment.
No good. No good.
This is when he presents Stretch with their friendly memento of LG's face and puts it on her.
Put that down. Put that down. What is that? Is it wet? It's wet. Put it down.
When life gives you lemons, make a mask of something beautiful to look back on. She is then tied up as Leatherface and the rest are all spooked as to the noise Dennis Hopper is creating and go to investigate.
Mercy on our souls!
Get that thing out of here! Maybe crack the main butane tank. It's up there. Go look at it.
Hey, they got a no trespassing warning, you know. Violators will be skinned alive and turned into skin suits and barbecued.
Damn property taxes fuck up everything.
No exceptions.
Oh, businessman gets it in the ass every time.
Right, it's junk. Quit, dump this cook show. Sell off this turkey. It's time. It's in the air. It's what the public wants.
We are already 1 hour and 40 minutes into this movie, and what we thought was our first major character tragedy is laid to rest as LG sits up. Oh yeah, despite losing some of his facial features, he's doing fine standing and walking, talking, and moving around like nothing happened.
Oh no, LG.
So, if he is alive again, what are the stakes in this movie? But once he knows his identity has been severed, he cuts her loose and then dies.
LJ! They got you too! Oh, LJ!
We gotta get you on loose.
I guess I'm falling apart on you, honey.
Your face. She kind of fucking misses that shit. A lot. However, they're playing it like she's confessing her long-lost love for him. Oh yeah, she misses you like a fucktard misses the point of this picture. And now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for the continuous, pointless lap around this great, big, huge, enormous lair. She will do it in plain sight of vicious cannibals too. Making sense yet? I guess they are right. Whatever she lacks in talent, she is certainly making for it in stamina here. This culminates into an endless long chase scene through a tunnel for 5 fucking minutes. Good lord, I would run that marathon mile, but my stamina gauge is empty. It's at this time when Leatherface has her cornered stretched in her Jason Voorhees reasoning moment where she's going to attempt to play psychologist with him. Sorry folks, don't expect anything original emanating other than an echo. This is supposed to be funny. This is supposed to be high-level satire that is supposed to knock our socks off. It's not skillful satire and far from Hooper's best, but thrown together very clumsily. Here's the point of the movie that unfortunately didn't get written into the film. No thanks to Cannon.
The script that Kit originally wrote was much more of a satire, and I think that's what intrigued a lot of the people that signed on to do the film. Not to say that they wouldn't have done it just to work with Toby and just because it was a sequel to a very successful film, but just as a pure horror film, I'm not sure that it would have been as interesting to all of those people as the script that they were actually presented with.
Hooper originally centered the theme around family. It was about Dennis Hopper losing his nephew Franklin. Another important part got cut out of the script was Stretch and his actual Dennis Hopper's illegitimate daughter. The whole social commentary was supposed to be centered around the importance of family and what it's like to be in a family. Unfortunately, without all of this important glue from the original script to tie everything together, you really don't have a base anymore, so as a result, it is just haphazardly thrown together. The cops show up and notice Leatherface has got a girlfriend.
Bubba likes her. Bubba's got a girlfriend. Bubba's got a girlfriend. Bubba's got a girlfriend.
Hey, maybe if we're lucky, there will be an extended cut where Leatherface discovers sex.
Go. Oh.
So Cook and Chop Top try to force Leatherface's hand, giving him an ultimatum. It's either the sex or the saw.
All right, Miss Priss, cut that out. Bubba, you were supposed to finish her. Finish her now. Give me that. Turn traitor for a piece of tail.
Chop Top then knocks her out, and we have yet another dinner scene where now Stretch is now getting ready to be served up as the main course in a similar dining scene as the first one.
You and free!
Then Grandpa Joe Biden Sawyer is wheeled in and attempts to play whack abroad, but keeps missing every time he does hit her, only once or twice.
Hey, Grandpa, here's the big boy. Look what Bubba brought you. Hey, Grandpa, Bubba's got something to show you here. Look, a slurpy booty.
She should be legally dead, but she's not. It's not like he hit anything important other than dislocating your brain. She then becomes unconscious and awakens to Lieutenant Einright singing hymns. Well, then you better grab onto your balls and remain seated at all times because it's canning time.
Waiting for the harvest.
Boys, boys, boys.
Then he goes from becoming son of a preacher man into Errol Flynn as he engages into a fencing duel with Leatherface, where they even leap onto top of a table. We should ask these two if they can teach us a saw fencing move that can't be paired. Drayton Sawyer is underneath the table and he's pretty cheery. He wants to kick it up a notch.
That little just in case baby. Yeah, there it is. Man builds a good sturdy trade by hooking and crooking.
So he pulls out a grenade from the corpse.
And then kerplooey!
Pulls it out, squeezes it, and drops it just at the point where Lieutenant Einright stabs Leatherface with the chainsaw.
Got the last laugh right here!
The fragmentation grenade. When a simple fuck you to the movie isn't getting the point across. Chop Top and Stretch have this chase scene going up the top ladder of the park, but they can only see the dust from the explosion that burst behind them. Is like a hand grenade. You remove the ring and your house is gone. They end up fighting on a ladder where Chop Top's weapon, of course, is a scalpel. We don't know how he came into possession of it, but he just starts slicing at her. I believe he distinctly asked for the big scalpel. Details, people. Details. Come on, she won't feel anything there but a little prick. He keeps swinging around and it always hits against something having no effect. What can I say? It's your ribs, honey. She finds him delicious. So they end up making their way up to the top of the mountain at this amusement park, where there is a shrine to Grandpa Sawyer, another living corpse from the first one. Living corpse. Before she looked like the bride of the mummy, and this time she wants someone for their body and their brains. Since when did she reanimate a set of intellect?
No! Get away from her! Get away! Yow! Don't touch her! No!
Stretch grabs a chainsaw sitting on her lap and basically gives Chop Top a buzz cut. He then falls down the mountain, possibly into a mine shaft. I heard they wanted to make a sequel, but the writers really dropped the ball on this one. What?
Some tales are told, then soon forgotten, but a legend is forever. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Aw, come on, that would be like watching the sequel to Kindergarten Cop 2. They said it was a sequel, but I called it a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor.
Oh, it's a tumor.
Not a tumor at all.
The movie ends up with a kind of a nod to the first one, only this time Stretch is on top of the mountain with the chainsaw, doing the chainsaw shimmy Dawn as she is the new queen of the mountain. It's hilarious. Very much Ash-worthy from Evil Dead. On one hand, what we see is a nice coming-of-age story of Leatherface who's stuck between showing joy and giving pain. Not only that, but in how he stands up to his family when moments of showing compassion and love for another human being would have been an afterthought in the first one. On hand, sequels do have to evolve to change their narratives to keep up with the new audiences. Unfortunately, that was one thing Cannon Films failed to come to terms with and agreeing to. Hooper's original cut that would have a lasting impact as to the outcome of this film. What we do lose in this film is that big hulking mass of steel ready to slice and dice anyone who comes across his sharp steel blades. It's not like he doesn't show shades of his former self in this one, but he becomes less frightening though. Bottom line, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is neither good or bad. Despite chances to flesh out some of its main characters, its contributing performances from the Texas Chainsaw Wrecking Crew, along with Tom Savini's dazzling bloody effects, make this rather odd but entertaining film noteworthy in the canons of horror films. Whether you enjoy the deep exploration of Leatherface, it certainly adds an extra element to the film and makes the ending a little more interesting. Cannon was certainly hoping that lightning would strike twice with another masterpiece as equal as the first, but at least they stuck onto something that was a fun house of fun. Until then, this is Jason Sawyer Sr. reminding you to tune in next time for the second of 3 Tobe Hooper Cannon-directed films, where he revives a 1950s classic that must have traumatized a good percentage of children upon home video release, Invaders from Mars. Stay healthy, my friends.
Cannon Films presents an outstanding lineup of films, major filmmakers, major stars, major motion pictures.
Hey, look, there's Mars.
Where?
Right over there, see?
Oh, it's pretty close.
Holy shit!
Jesus, that's bright.
It's time for bed.
How do you expect me to become an astronaut if you won't let me stay up late?
David, that whatever you tell me stays in this room.
A UFO lands in the back of your house and puts something in your mom and dad's neck, and then it gets your teacher and the police and your friend Heather and her father, Ed, from the telephone company.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I don't know, David, that's some kind of story.
It's not a story.
What the hell kind of nurse are you, anyway?
I'm sorry, Mr. Gardner. I just left the office for one moment, and when I got back, he was gone.
What did he talk to you about?
He was upset. He's having a problem with one of the teachers.
I told you. He needs psychiatric help.
Is that all he said?
Yes.
They tried to catch me! They chased me through their tunnels! They almost killed me! What? Who? These things! They're huge, ugly, slimy, giant Mr. Potato Head!
Destroyed at 12 o'clock, midnight.
Oh no! The field trip!
Oh, hey!
David Gardner!
Canon Films presents Toby Hooper's Invaders from Mars. There's no place on Earth to hide.